everybody. Today we're going to learn how to draw a realistic tree. As an art teacher, I see kids draw trees all the time, and I'll take you to the board, and this is what I usually get. But to me, it kind of looks like a lollipop with fuzzy on top. So we want to try to avoid doing those kind of trees. So when you want to learn how to draw something realistically, what's the best thing that you can do? Obviously, you want to look at that subject. So if we're drawing a tree, the best idea would be to go outside, bring your sketchbook and bring your pencil and draw what you see, right? But sometimes that's not always possible. So the next best thing you could do is maybe Google some images, or look in a book, or look in a magazine. So here's some of the images that I found. I looked in an old book that someone had given me, and here I have some trees. So that would be something that I could put next to my sketchbook while I'm drawing. And as you can see, they're all different types of trees, different leaves, different trunks, and how they look in general, just overall. So I'm gonna take you through how to draw a basic tree. Now, when you're trying to draw a basic tree, there are 4 parts. There's your roots, the trunk, the branches, and then the little branches are what we call twigs, and then you have the leaves if it is in a season where you see leaves. So I like to think of a tree as a person. So we always start by drawing the roots. That's the bottom part of the tree that goes into the ground. Sometimes you see a little bit above the ground, and that's what nourishes the tree. It gets all the water up and into the trunk and to make those leaves really pretty. So when I draw roots, I start somewhere near the bottom of the paper, not all the way, but up a little bit, like to leave a little room. And I think of the roots as kind of like a carrot, something you pull out of a garden. So I like to start by drawing almost what looks like a carrot, or kind of like an ice cream cone. And maybe I put 2 or 3 tree roots, and I kind of connect them. Then I leave some room for the trunk. The trunk is like your legs, your thighs, your torso, and then your chest. And usually most trees are thicker at the bottom and get thinner as they grow up. So here I would put my trunk, thicker at the bottom, slowly getting thinner as it grows up. Thick here, narrow here. Then I start to think of the branches. The branches are like your arms if you think about it. It has a right side and it has a left side. My bicep is pretty thick, and as it grows away from the trunk or my body, it gets thinner and thinner like my wrist. So when I start to make my branches, I want to have them start coming out from the trunk and going out towards the side of the paper. Here they are thick, where the bicep is, if you call it, and now it gets thinner as it grows out. Same thing with the other side. Thick and then thin. Left side and right side. And those are 2 main branches. You want to add in a 3rd or a 4th, you certainly can do that. And I go right to the edges of the paper, spread it out. Now I want some littler branches. You could think of those like your fingers. So off of those main branches, now I'm going to put another branch, and again, I'm going from thick to thin. Thick where it meets the other branch, thin as it grows away. Thick, thin. And now you see this tree start to coming together. I can put some more little branches off of the ones that I just have done. And sometimes the branches even overlap. They go behind another branch. Don't be afraid to do that, right? They don't have to be perfectly straight, because tree branches aren't perfectly straight. And as you can see, what's starting to happen is I'm getting these V and Y shapes, right? You can see the V here. You can see the Y here. And that's how they start to connect. Now, how do I end the branches? Well, I can bring them in a point. I could put them on an angle. I could really do whatever I need to do. Now, obviously, I'm drawing with a marker, so people at home, you could see my picture better. But if I was using a pencil, which you should be doing, I would go back in and I would erase some of these lines that I connected the branches together. So you can do that. So now I have my tree. But something's not right here, right? If you look at the skin of the tree, like we have skin, that protects the interior of the tree. And what do we call that? We call that bark. So how do you draw bark? Well, I guess it depends on what kind of tree you are looking at, because all different types of trees has all different types of bark. So what I like to do is I go on the computer and I Google tree bark, and here are the keywords, up close. When you do that, then you can see that there are all types of tree bark. Some have like swirly lines, some are more like shapes. So you have to decide on which bark you want. So if I want a swirly kind of line texture, I would do these kind of jaggedy lines, and I would have almost, it's like one continuous line. As you see, I'm not even taking my pen off the paper. That bark would go into the tree roots, right? And it would also come here up into the branches, because there is bark all over the tree, right? Wherever you would see that trunk that extends to the branches, even into the little twigs, that's where you would have that bark. Now maybe you're a person that wants to do more like the shape bark. So for that, I draw these kind of abstract organic shapes that are close together but not overlapping. They have a little space in between. Almost looks like tile mosaic, something that you might have in the backsplash of your house, or maybe on a floor in your home. And then again, this type of bark would kind of head up into the tree branches and would also be here on the tree roots. So that helps to complete the tree. Now what about leaves? Well, I don't know if you want to spend the time and draw these little teeny tiny leaves, but you can draw the overall outline of the leaves of the tree that it makes. Some trees are really narrow, some are really full, some are tall, some are short, but somewhere below the first branch, that's when I would kind of make my squiggly lines. It could kind of go off the page, and that starts to form the outline of how our tree leaves would look on the tree. Now you can go back in and you could add some what I call like clumps of leaves. This is a series of leaves put together, and that kind of helps to make it look a little bit more realistic, right? Here are my clumps of leaves, or clouds of leaves, or bursts of leaves, whatever you want to call them, as long as you get the leaves in there. And then you can put a couple little lines if you want, some little clumps of leaves here or there. And if you want to add in some bigger leaves close up, you can certainly do that in the tree and coming out of the branches, because that's where the leaves would normally be. One last thing we have to do is the horizon line. We don't want our tree floating in air, so we want to have that line where the ground and the sky meet. It should always be higher than the tree roots. So I could put it here, I could put it here, I could put it here. I could put it wherever I want. And again, it doesn't have to be even perfectly straight. And there is how you draw a realistic tree. Now you try it. Have fun.